I got a phone call from my dad, and he just explained the story and said basically mom's been attacked in her house. Guys came in, broke into her house in the middle of the day because she was a nurse. She used to work night shifts, and basically just stabbed her a couple times. Stabbed her I think it was in the forehead and in the neck and in the arm and like in the stomach and in the back.
In December 2007, an intruder broke into the home of Lebo Mboa's mother while she was sound asleep.
Tried to take, I think, a cell phone and the TV set, and I think she woke up and heard him.
What happened on that fateful day would turn his world upside down.
I think there was some sort of interaction between the two, and then I think the guy just got nervous, and that was probably the first piece of really heavy news that I'd ever had to deal with as a Christian.
Lebo was a strong believer at the time of the attack. In fact, he'd been a worship leader since he was a teenager, something that had been birthed in the church home cell he had been attending.
I joined a home group, a bunch of young guys, and the home group leader at the time, he kind of just asked me when we were just chatting, he said, "Hey, Lebs, you play guitar, right?" And I was like, yeah. And then he said, "Can you sing?" I was like, "Well, I've never really tried." And he said, "Cool, you're going to lead some worship in the home group next week." It was quite a weird experience because afterwards, a whole bunch of people were just praying for me and laying hands on me, and I think a whole bunch of prophetic words came out about just me being a worship leader and me just, I guess, being part of worship in quite big context.
Within a couple of months, he was leading worship at his school.
But back then, my heart was I just wanted to worship. I just wanted to just play guitar, and the cool thing is that I got to play guitar in these contexts where I guess people were experiencing the love of God, but I was never going back to the Father and getting refreshed. So it got to a point where my tank was empty, and I just kept giving out of, I guess, just what I knew instead of giving out of what the Father had given me.
But Lebo would need more than an empty tank when he got the devastating news of his mother's gruesome attack, an attack that left her in a coma for the next 2 months. At first, Lebo clung to his faith, but even that started to wane.
The doctors would phone me and my sisters and say, "Hey, you can come see your mom, she's doing a bit better." And my sisters would go by themselves and they'd see my mom and then it would be fine. But every time I went, the doctors would come out and say, "No, listen, maybe it's best you don't come in because your mom's just started bleeding out again because she had internal bleeding." So I was only able to see her a handful of times as compared to everyone else. And whenever I saw her, she probably looked the worst that she possibly could have looked. It was kind of weird on the one hand having this faith to see my mom healed, but then seeing the natural and seeing her getting worse, and I guess it was this thing inside of me where I didn't know what side to believe.
Taking a step of faith, he asked one of the pastors at his church to pray for his mom.
I just felt God's presence so strong in that room, and it just felt like God was there, and just had this moment where God kind of gave me this picture of my mom, and I saw this explosion in the hospital room, just this massive explosion, and I just saw everything get completely destroyed, and I saw my mom's body like physically exploding, and then I saw her just standing there like in her gown, and like all her wounds were gone, and like she didn't have that drip in her nose anymore, and I just saw her fall into her knees and just start worshiping God, and it was quite interesting to see because my mom I don't think she was a Christian. I think for me, the way I interpreted that picture is that was a clear sign that God is going to heal my mother, and I was just so happy and excited about it.
Hope that you're holding your breath until it's time to wade through the rivers in his net.
I think 2 or 3 days later, where I got a call from my dad saying that my mom had just passed away. So it was a weird thing of seeing this clear image. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen an image that vivid in my life before, of my mother clearly being healed and in a glorified body, falling to her knees in worship, and then me finding out that she passed away a few days later.
Despite being overwhelmed with pain and confusion, Lebo continued to lead worship. He thought he could handle things on his own and told very few people of his inner battle.
It was very, very stressful, and I think especially in moments where you're singing about the joy of the Lord and you're singing a happy song in church, but inside you're completely broken. There's this moment where you start feeling a bit like a hypocrite, where you feel like you don't really have a right to be leading people in joyous, triumphant songs if you're not in that place in your heart.
In the wake of his mother's passing and knowing she was not a Christian at the time of the attack, Lebo now faced a new set of troubling thoughts.
Well, the thoughts that were going through my mind were kind of, well, I don't know, is my mom in heaven with the Father, or has she gone to hell? And it was kind of tearing my heart apart because it was that Sunday. One of the guys from church, I didn't really know him very well, and news hadn't really spread yet about my mother passing. I remember he came up to me and he just said, "Hey man, I was praying for you the other day. God also gave me this other word, but it seemed so random that I didn't share with you, but I just felt God say these words, God knows your mother." And I just broke down in tears and I told him the whole story, and I think he was just blown away. And I think he was just thinking how bizarre it is that for him, God could give him a word that just seemed so insignificant, so much so that he didn't even want to share it. And I imagine if he hadn't shared it, it probably would have taken me a lot longer to reach a place of freedom.
Over the next year, not only did God refill Lebo's tank, he also restored his relationship with his father.
I never really had the best relationship with my dad. I think just me being a teenager also probably helped with that. And I just used to go there every Monday and just have soup and stuff with my dad, because I think that was kind of his way of connecting with me. And it just brought us closer together as a family, with me and my sisters and me and my dad. That's probably the closest we've ever been in our lives since my mom passed away.
But this season did not last long. Tragically, their second chance at being a family was cut short when his father went missing, and news from his aunt brought a new set of fears.